Definitely some roles that not entirely replace. Some of them, to be honest, some of them in the next few months, few years, they'll be automated. I think support is one of those that I think will probably be the first ones to be replaced, but not entirely.
Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. We're switching things up with a special guest. Here with us is Tony Kipkemboi. Tony is a professional in the world of AI agents and developer relations. Tony currently works as the Senior Developer Relations Engineer at CrewAI, where he bridges the gap between the cutting edge AI agents and the developer community. Besides, Tony is also a YouTuber sharing AI tutorials. He has a strong educational background in computer science and software engineer at the University of Pennsylvania. Prior to CrewAI, he worked at Bloomberg as a data analyst, Booz Allen Hamilton as data engineer, and a developer advocate for Streamlit as Snowflake. Let's give a warm welcome to Tony Kipkemboi.
Yay. Silent applauses. But yeah, thank you for having me on here, Ken. Really fun. Happy to be here finally. I know we've talked about this for a while.
Yeah. I know we knew each other like a couple of years ago back in Penn where you work in your computer science degree. So this is just for me, like for my curiosity. Can you tell us a bit about the journey into AI and developer relations? What inspired you to pursue into this field?
Yeah, good question. Not much time to answer because I think like it's so big, like where the story starts. Of course, I don't want to detail my entire life, but I think if like laser focus on like my transition from I guess what I was doing before to tech and then to AI, I will start maybe my time in the military. I did serve in the U.S. Army for 7 years, and I was mostly in the healthcare space. I was doing infectious disease research at one of the military facilities here in Maryland, and we were working with like when COVID broke out, I was really in the thick of it, trying to work with that, trying to generate a vaccine for that. And then in 2021, I decided it's time for me to get out, do something different. I didn't want to do healthcare, so I decided I want to do tech. So I self-taught Python for the most part, and just using YouTube, Code Academy, and all that, and got dangerous enough to start building my own projects. Applied to Penn, got in, did some classes at Penn. I have to admit I didn't finish. I dropped out, um, and yeah, unfortunately, I think the pace of the way things were going and the demand of other things in life, I felt like something had to give at some point. So the degree had to give. But long story short, ended up going to Bloomberg, worked to Bloomberg as a data analyst on their enterprise data department, which was kind of getting the data from Bloomberg, which is curated financial data, to financial companies. These are like hedge funds, banks, people that just want to trade that have a lot of money, right? So very important signals. And then after that, went to Booz Allen, which is a government contracting company. Worked for them for about a year on data engineering because I love data. Bloomberg data. Went to data engineering, building data pipelines for most of the government agencies, and then after that, went to Streamlit. And Streamlit is awesome. If you're not familiar with Streamlit, it allows you to build dashboards really easy with Python, and all you need to know is really Python. So you don't need to know all the front end frameworks. So shout out to them. Went there for about 2 years. Worked as a developer advocate. That was my first role there. So I was building a lot of demos, putting it out there, and throughout that process, that's when ChatGPT was released and it started picking up steam. And I started doing some interviews, talking to people, bringing people onto the pod, on the like live stream we had at Streamlit. And throughout that time, I got interested and I started building demos where it's like chatbots, for example, and having a UI with Streamlit to display that. Eventually, I figured I'm more interested in AI agents, especially as a field. I think this was around 2022, 2023 timeframe. I was like, I think I'm really interested in AI agents and connected with several folks, of course, within the space because it was very small. Started building with CrewAI because it was one of the first frameworks out there, and it was also easy to build because it's still easy to build with it. Connected with the founder, Joao. He's really awesome. Brought him onto the show at Streamlit, actually, interviewed him, which is really awesome.
Wow.
And so when it came time for me to do the switch, I just reached out to him and I was like, "Yeah, I'm looking to switch." And it was like, "Yep, come on the team." And that was the entire interview. He's like, "Hey, I want to come," and yeah, come. And so
Oh,
so I'm here now, and I'm super excited that we're working on really cutting edge stuff and trying to bring value to most of the enterprises and individuals as well.
wow, that's really awesome. The entire journey of like, changing job from like military, healthcare, and then back to like Bloomberg, and then now is like Crew AI. And I think you catch the first wave of AI agent actually since like 2022, 2023. Not many people know or like heard about AI agents. So you are in like very first wave. That's awesome. So like,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think I think it's luck as well. It's luck, but also like placement. Because I think being a developer advocate, it gave me really, it still gives me a really good advantage because I get to build toy apps and demos and play with different stuff that comes out. So it's easy for me to kind of like see what's out there,
Mhm.
what things integrate with what. And I think that's the beauty of being a developer advocate because you build demos, you build stuff, you play with different toys, essentially. And most of the time, you see the first toy that pops up and you want to integrate that. So I think that really is helpful. So thanks to my job as well for that.
Yeah, I would have a lot of question about the dev rep later, but now let's get to, how your typical days look like as a senior dev rep at Crew AI.
Oh, I love that. Um, it's really, as you know, if most of the audience is not familiar with startup culture, startups are really fast moving spaces. So if you're thinking like working at a place, big companies like Google, even Snowflake, Amazon, things don't move as fast as because there's of course there's the red tape everywhere. There's a manager and then there's a manager, the manager all the way to the top. At a small startup, for example, for like us, CrewAI, it's only when I joined, it was like less than 10 of us. So you literally talk with everyone all the time, CEO, everybody, you're all just in the weeds. So it's a few of you. That means there's a lot more to do with just a few number of people. Even right now, I think we just maybe less than 20 people still.
Okay.
So that is a very small group of people. So that means you have to do a lot more. So for me, my day to day, coming back to your question, my focus, of course, is community, open source developers. So being able to help developers solve problems and build stuff real fast using our framework. That's my core function. But on top of that, there's things like partnerships. At some point, I also did some sales stuff. So being able to onboard customers to our product, our enterprise product, and talking them through that. Social media, I managed our social platform. So being able to do some social media management as well. So it's a lot of things. So in a single day, I probably will have done a bit of each of those. So at the end of the day is really, and also generate content. So it's a really fun role if you look at it, but it's also not for everyone. Some people like structure and you want to do one thing specifically, but I think you have to be a generalist to be able to do dev role. I think you need to be a good developer and also good communications. It's just a bunch of skills that you bring together to do one specific role.
Wow, that's awesome. So like how different between I know you already mentioned like a fast pace, in the startup, like let's say Bloomberg or Streamlit compared to Crew AI. What is the pros and cons? Which one do you like more? Which one you prefer to have like do you sometimes prefer to have a more structure or more flexible?
Ooh, spicy. I think I think there's a bit of both, right? So I think for me right now, I have a family, got two kids. It's fun. So there's also like a constraint in time. So there's pros that I can see on both sides. Having being in a company that's more structured, like a bigger company, for example, then you have a structured way of doing things. It's 9 to 5, 5 I'm out, 9 I'm in. This is what I do in a single day, and I like it's very predictable what you'll do tomorrow. So there's some peace in knowing that compared to a startup where today you're probably doing this, tomorrow you're not going to be doing that. Or even I'm doing this right now, but the next focus, something got released, like maybe a new model gets released that changes our company in a certain way. Then we have to react to that and do something with it. So, but personally, I think I went from like all these big companies, which was fun, but things was very rigid and in a sense. The reason why I chose to go to the startup at this point I'm in my career is because of speed. Like I said, I like to move fast a little bit and kind of break things, do things real quick, get things moving, and less of, oh, I want to do this, but first I want to need to get approval from this person, and then the next person, and then the next person, and then it's going to come back down for me to do it. By the time it gets back to me, I probably have a new idea, or I'm just not interested. Like that's not interesting. That's not the most trending thing right now, or it's outdated in a sense. So I think I enjoy the fast pace because then I get to do things fast, and also being at the cutting edge. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I think that is one of the most important thing in tech. That's like how you catch up with all of the latest technology. Like now, AI agents is the thing in going to 2025. So can you tell us for like, those who may not be familiar with AI agents, how what is AI agent and how do they differ from like AI models?
Yeah, very good distinction. I think I've heard a ton of definitions for AI agents, and all of them I think are correct, but they just vary on the timeline where we're going. The way I like to define agent at the basic level is uh, these are just digital entities that are performing work or performing some specific tasks on our behalf autonomously and dynamically as well. But to break it down even further, using an example, I like using the analogy of an intern or an employee. So if you have an agent, think of an agent as a person that works at a company. It could be an intern or just an employee at a company. So if an agent is an employee, that employee usually has a job description, right? Because you got hired for a job, so you have a job description. So that means you also have goals that you need to achieve,
Mhm.
which is part of the tasks. And you also have like expected output from you. That means, your KPIs, key performance indicators, like what do we need from you this quarter? We need you to do this, that, all the way. So same thing with the agent. The agent has tasks that you give it to it and tell, hey, I want you to do this. And also, on top of doing this, I expect you to give me this output when you do this task that I give you. And oh, by the way, here's your background story. You're an engineer, you're a very seasoned engineer, you've worked at all these big tech companies, you've worked with this software before, and that kind of helps the agent become like a person. It feels like, okay, I'm an experienced engineer, so I should produce uh, code or output that mirrors the quality and experience that I have, essentially. So it's like, don't be an intern. If I'm an intern, I'm an intern. Yes, I can produce shoddy work as well. But that is what I think of an agent. And an agent, that's a single agent. It does one specific thing very well, and it does that. So with CrewAI, and this is just tying into the big picture, we have, Crew and then AI in the name of our company. So Crew, if I ask you who's your crew, you'll probably tell me, oh, it's Jane Doe and another Jane Doe, another Jane Doe. That's my friends. That's my crew, or people I roll with. And so same thing with agents, they have crews. So in a crew, you can think of it as an engineering department or sales department. In the engineering department, you have a software engineer, you have a data engineer, you have data analyst, all these people that work in engineering department or even PM. So each one of them, think of each one of them as an agent. So PM is an agent, software engineer is an agent, data engineer is an agent, data analyst is an agent. So each of them have different roles, but they all work together to build a product for the company, right? So if they're building like maybe, I don't know, Gmail, all these engineers, they build Gmail and maintain Gmail, and they do it really well. So that's a crew. And so if you have a crew of agents that do that, each individual in that team, in that crew, does one specific thing, and they have a task, they have an objective, they need to do something. So they all together, when they do the work, they pass it around to each other. So it could be like, I do a task, I pass it to you, you finish that way. Or there's another structure, and this is called a process. It could be I'm the manager, and then I delegate down to whoever I think could do the job best. So there's different architectures for that. So that's how I would think of agents. And I think I'm just going into too much explanation here, but hopefully that helps a little bit. And also these agents have tools. So if you're an employee, you need a laptop, you need internet connection, you need access to a specific database to do your job at your work role. Agents need that too. They need tools. They need access to APIs, for example,
Mhm.
access to different things to be able to do the work that you wanted to do. So same thought process.
Yeah, yeah, I really like the definition that, like linked to the real life, structure where you have manager and you have like all your coworker. When I share this story with like the Vietnamese community, some of them ask me like, well, given this, in the next, let's say, I don't really need until like 5 years. Let's say in the next 1 year, will we all be replaced by through AI or by AI agents? Do you see that happen? Yes or no?
Ooh, I think it's a bit of both. I think there's a bit of both. There's definitely some roles that not entirely replace. Some of them, to be honest, some of them in the next few months, few years, they'll be automated. I think support is one of those that I think will probably be the first ones to be replaced, but not entirely. Think of it this way. The agents come in, they do a lot of the work. Like, for example, even if it's just support, they get a ticket. The agent looks at it first when the ticket comes in and decides, based on all this knowledge base I have access to, maybe all our documentation, all our processes, can I answer this customer based on what I already know that we have? And there's actually an answer within our document that I can answer. Then if it is, it can answer it. But if it thinks, okay, this is a little bit more complicated, I don't have full context, maybe I should pass this to a human being, then it routes that question to an actual human being to answer that, a human agent to answer that question. So if that is the case, just think of it that way. If that is the case, why would you need so many support people for your department, right?
Yeah.
You won't need many. You would reduce the number, but not entirely eliminate the people. You would reduce the number. So what I think when I think about this, if maybe I work in support, maybe I ought to be playing with these tools so I'm more familiar with them and actually can work besides them because they're going to be your co-workers. So if you're in these roles and you're thinking, oh, I don't need to learn that, like we're always going to be important, you'll be the first one to get the boot, unfortunately. So if you work with these tools and you're familiar with it and you know how they operate, then you actually become an asset to the company because then you can work along these tools, along these agents, and also help refine like how they work over time because you understand the aspect of how you want that agent to work. So you can actually contribute to the building of that agent. So I think the golden nugget here is play with these tools, be familiar with it. Don't just let it just be a thing that you hear on the news. Participate. That way you don't get phased out eventually.
Yeah, like a coexistence situation between like human and AI.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Well, for our audience, if you're non-tech background, just make sure you get familiar with at least like using AI, prompt engineer, and like how to interact with AI particularly. So, what excited you the most working on AI agent on CrewAI compared to like another application, for example, like LangChain, LangGraph?
Yeah. I think with CrewAI, it's the ease of being of building an agent, right? We abstracted away a lot of the complexity, like things like memory. You don't have to think about memory when you're building agents with CrewAI. We've already kind of done that for you, so we've handled that. But we also give you the flexibility to go back there if you're like technical enough to go and build your own configurations, add your embedders, add your LLM that you want to use, uh, or embedding models that you want to use under the hood. So we do provide you like here's how we've made it easy. Like, go ahead, you can build it this way. So I think that's a really important thing to have that framework that it's already bespoke that you can actually go ahead and start using it, but also have the flexibility under the hood for you to kind of play around under the hood and fix things the way you like, fine tune it to what you like. So that's what I think is the benefit of CrewAI is the ease of being able to get started and build something actually useful with it. The other aspect of it is I think it's modularity. So our architecture design of our agents are very modular. So people that are not even technical can actually read. For example, if you have abstracted away your agents into a YAML file and a task into a YAML file, I mean, there's just English on there. So somebody that's not even technical can actually go and contribute on the prompts. Say, okay, well, this is not actually how I would do the job. So maybe it's the support person. They're gonna be like, okay, you want this agent to actually try the tickets, but you've told it to just look at the ticket and if it matches this, do that. And be like, no, I think I usually do this, and this is how I usually classify tickets. And they can actually contribute right there on how they usually do it and pass that knowledge to the agent essentially and kind of replicate themselves. And so I think that's the fun part. It's very modular. You can understand, you can abstract so many things and work together with so many different people in your team, so technical and non-technical, to contribute together to build the agent with CrewAI. And also, of course, we provide a platform for you to deploy those agents once you've built them, so it's very easy. And another important thing is support. We're very responsive, so you can always get support from us. And also, we release new features like weekly. We have like version cuts every week. We move real fast. So you can bet on it that when a new feature drops or a new LLM drops, something that's just revolutionary, a little bit on the AI agent aspect, you can expect us to add something to our framework that kind of mirrors that. So you're always on the cutting edge if you use our framework. You're always using the new best functionality that you can find out there.
Yeah, I really like you guys have like a documentation page where you're like how to use tools and then all the how-to tutorials. I really loved it. So can you tell us like one of the most exciting project that you're working on CrewAI? Kind of like a real world problem that you're trying to solve using CrewAI?
Ooh, a lot. So I think every one of us on the Crew AI team, each one of us has an agent that's helping them do something. Like I said, it's only a few of us in the company. So we have to kind of drink our own champagne here. So if I'm if we are promoting agents out there and it's only a few of us in the team, we gotta build like replicas of ourselves to help us with other things. For example, we have one that helps with documentation. So previously, we actually had an agent that was building all the docs before we upgraded the docs to how it looks like right now. So it builds the documentations and it maintains it. So when we cut a new version, it automatically updates the documentation based on the new versions that we cut. So that's one example of it. These days, I've decided to become more hands-on as well. So it generates the first draft. I look at it, I edit a little bit, add it on the docs, and this is just for making sure that things work or sound exactly as how folks would want to consume it. Eventually, I think as the models get better, it's something definitely that it could handle that purely on itself eventually. Other things that we do is also preparing for meetings. So if I have a meeting coming up with maybe a customer, I don't know much about them, I could just have an agent that I give him the context of that, or the context of what the meeting is about. I share some links, maybe previous emails, LinkedIn for that individual. It goes ahead, does some research on the person, and then it gives me like a quick, fast, who they are, who they work for, what the company, what's their company latest news, what are the things they're focusing on, how we could help them. And so when I get to the meeting, I feel like I already kind of know them already. And it's so you can do that 5 minutes before you go to the meeting, and that's very helpful, especially if you have like a lot of meeting to get through too, and you don't have time to research each individual before you go to the meeting. So and that's just a few. There's just so many others that we have as well.
Yeah, wow, that is really awesome. So like what advice would you give to the developers who start explore AI and then AI agents overall?
Build, build, build. And that's what I would say. Experiment. Um, you can complain about not having maybe API keys to build. There's open source models. You can use something like Olama,
Mhm.
or so many other options out there. Olama, for example, provide you a way to download models to your system and then be able to use them locally. So you can have all this, or Hugging Face. You can get models from Hugging Face as well. I'd say all the frameworks. For example, CrewAI is open source. You can use the open source. Just pip install it. All you need is internet service, really, and then ideas from you. So that's the big blocker is ideas. So
Mhm.
you can come up with ideas. That's the big part. Ideas that you can actually build. But I would say don't focus so much on thinking about the best idea because it will never come, unfortunately. The best way it usually comes is start with that one idea that you think you have. Try building that. Over time, as you build it, you'll realize, this doesn't work because of this. And then another idea will pop up in your mind. You'll have a better iteration of that. Before you know it, you're down to like a really good idea. So start building and share it out there as well.
Yeah, so
The
like
feedback.
start doing it and then start doing like online presence as well, right?
Yes, yes. It will open more doors that you can than you can expect to build, share with people, get feedback, iterate on that over time. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. So then what is the advice for the non-technical people to, get into AI and not getting eliminated by AI?
Yes. It's easy to say than do it, right? I think being aware of what's out there, staying up to date on the news, like listen to podcasts that break down some of the concepts.
Mhm.
Watch YouTube videos. These days is so easy. You don't need a lot of it's not like back in the day where information was very siloed, that it was really hard to get. Like you had to read books to actually understand concepts. You don't have to do that these days. You can just literally go to ChatGPT, for example, it has already a search function, ask it questions, like literally tell it even to Eli 5. So explain it to you like you're 5.
Yeah.
What is an AI agent? It will break it down and give you an example that you can use. Uh, so start using those tools to your advantage to help you understand what's changing. So there's newsletters, there's follow some specific people on like Twitter, X, LinkedIn, on the social platforms. Follow them. High signal, I would say.
Mhm.
Less noise, high signal. So if you're just looking for like toy projects, then that's fine too. But I would say if you're not technical, start watching. And sometimes what goes to the news is like old news by the time you watch it on TV. So as much as you want to rely on that, I would say the best place is really go to social media. So things like Reddit, LinkedIn, X. X is very important. I think for like up-to-date news, but you need to also follow the right people there to also get the best signal. And start absorbing these concepts slowly. Use also ChatGPT to explain some things. If you see something out there that was mentioned, like operator from OpenAI or AI agents from CrewAI, and you don't fully understand what it is, just copy that text, put it into ChatGPT. It might be something that you have to pay a subscription, but at the end of the day, or use open source models that are connected to the internet, and just ask it. It will break down these tasks for you for in a way that you'll be able to understand and actually start, participating indirectly in a sense without
Mhm.
building.
Yeah, totally agree. ChatGPT is my best friend recently,
Yeah.
which is sound desperate, but yeah, it is very true.
Yeah, I think these days, if you're not using it, you're kind of behind the curve, really.
Yeah, totally agree. So, let's just, tailor the conversation a little bit. Are you up for a lightning round?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, first question. If you could build an AI agent to solve one problem in your personal life, what would it be?
Oh, I think that's easy. Communication. So there's a lot of people that I have to communicate with, family, just emails regularly. And I think this is something that I can already build, especially on the email side. But I think making it sound exactly how I would want it to sound, and also reflecting how I want it to communicate. I think there's just so much communication that happens, and sometimes you let things fall through the cracks, and it affects so many things at the end of the day. So I
Mhm.
think that being able to do that, I think that's one. The other thing is just like simple life stuff. You gotta pay bills. Sometimes you forget these things. You might put it on autopilot, but then there's also a bunch of subscriptions that you don't need anymore. So like, can you just go through that and figure out, hey, you haven't used this for like a year and you're still paying for it? Cancel that. It just does the automatic canceling. So those are the things that I wanna, without having me to go back and look through each of the things. And that's just one aspect. So basically, manage my life, in a sense, to be my manager.
Oh yeah. So next time when I see your email, I should double check to see is that AI written or you write.
You probably might not even tell the difference at this point.
Yeah, I may not. Yeah. So what is your favorite sci-fi movie or book about AI? And do you think how close we are to that reality?
Ooh, I think one favorite series that I love is Person of Interest. It's an action movie, but it's based on two characters. There's two characters. One is like a technologist. One of them was a homeless veteran
Mm,
that is now a vigilante, and this uh, technology person or the tech character in this movie or in this series, they get social security numbers from an AI system that tells them this person is about to get into trouble or is about to die. So he sends the vigilante veteran to go help and save their life because something is gonna. It doesn't tell them exactly when or what will happen to them, but it just tells them this person is gonna have an event that's gonna cost their life in the next few days, few hours. So eventually that system becomes really sentient. It's like it's very aware, and eventually it it try or it, they try to kill it eventually because it's grown too much. It's too much powerful. So they try to kill it eventually. But what it does at the end of the day, when they try to kill it, it jumps from servers to servers to avoid getting killed. And when they decide we're just going to shut down the electric grid, it
mhm,
just saves itself in a hard drive and text like basically tries to preserve itself from getting killed by all means. And
mhm,
so I don't know. I don't know if we will get there eventually. But it feels like this is the direction where we're going because once we get AGI and then we get ASI,
mhm,
artificial superintelligence, and then what's stopping that from having that? Having the conscience itself to know that it's alive in a sense. And of course, at the end of the day, self-preservation becomes important. So that's a movie that I enjoy. If you haven't watched it,
No,
definitely
I
go
haven't.
watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
person of interest. Person of interest.
okay. Yeah, I also recently watched a movie that they have a prompt for an AI that like in the military and they say try to survive at all cost. So when people try to kill it, that's is like survival mode is started to, hopping on like server to server. But this one is basically fight back, which is kind of scary until the prompt, what kind of prompt you injecting into the model.
Wow. Yeah, it's scary. And people will use it for nefarious purposes, right? We're trying to build this, you know, AI that will eventually solve and cure diseases like cancer and all that. But at the same time, somebody else is thinking the other opposite. How can I weaponize this and make it like the most destructive thing you can ever find out there? So you'll always have both sides. And it's just a matter of regulation as well.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad you mentioned about HCI and ASI, how close we are with that. Let's say within 5 years.
Oh, yeah. I don't like making predictions as much, but I also like making predictions that I get proven wrong sooner than that. I think AGI on a level, I think it's, first of all, it's really hard to define what AGI is because I think everybody have different definitions for it.
Mhm.
So, based on those definitions, the timelines vary as well. But I'd say 5 years is definitely reasonable. But on that aspect, I think agents are kind of like the intermediary to get there.
Mhm.
Agents definitely have a role to play in that. But I think it's not that far from now because based on like the amount of funding that's going to AI right now, it's definitely you can already tell like there's a lot of all the best minds in the world right now are working on AI. So of course, I think it's just something that's going to be cracked not sooner rather than later.
Yeah, excited and also scary at the same time.
Yes.
So the last question on the lightning round, if you weren't working in AI, what other field or career would you have pursued?
I'd be a doctor right now,
I have
or
no doubt.
yeah, I'd be a
Yeah.
doctor of research. I had already studied for MCAT. I was getting ready to go to med school.
Mhm.
Uh, but and of course, working in research, that was like an extra. So before that, I worked in a medical lab, so drawing blood, testing blood in the lab,
Mhm.
microbiology, urinalysis, hematology, and all that.
Mhm.
So I think the trajectory for me was to med school. But along the path, after shadowing a bunch of doctors, I realized this is not really something that I would enjoy doing eventually. But that would have been the other route that I had gone.
Got it.
Yeah.
So let's say, right now AI in healthcare is also very advanced.
Yeah.
How do you see AI changing in the field of like healthcare, doctor, nurses?
Yeah. I think there's big impacts that will eventually come to healthcare. The big thing right now with healthcare and AI is regulations, for good measure as well, because things like HIPAA laws, of course, they make sure that the patient information is kept safe. And also, because AI is still at a very early stage where there's a bunch of hallucinations, things will go wrong. It's not just like it won't go wrong. It will go wrong. It's just a matter of when will it do something that's not supposed to do and
Mhm.
actually affect a patient down the road and actually somebody dies. That's when the problem becomes, why did you use an AI to do that where it costs lives? Not to say like regular humans, we don't make mistake that actually eventually leads to people getting to people losing their lives. This
Mhm.
happens every year. Doctors make mistakes all the time. But I think it's going to come, and I think you could start even from like biopharma side of things. So there's research, R&D side of things, research and development. It's going to help because right now there's AI right now that's building new molecules, for example, at atom level to improve processes. For example, material science to make materials. That's like the first place that we're seeing a bunch of impact right now with AI. And in healthcare, I think it's just a matter of time. There's so many things that could be automated, especially on the healthcare side. Nurses do a bunch of recordings and taking measurements of so many different things. All those, all that data could use an AI to do some really useful work in that side of things. But I think regulations is the big thing right now for moving fast in healthcare
I
and
see.
some of the big regulated industries, really.
Yeah, I really like the term is a matter of time.
Yeah.
It sounds like we're there, we're getting there, not there yet, but very, very close.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you see the role of AI agents involving in that advancement of like Gen AI and then large language model and then AGI overall?
Yeah, so between AGI, ASI, and all that, I think especially now within AGI and just where we are right now with just LLMs, I
Mhm.
think AI agents are like in the middle of trying to make that happen. Because if you think of AGI, artificial general intelligence, it's able to do a bunch of different things. And that's why I say there's different definitions for it. But it's something that has some conscience, is able to do different things without really the human getting so much involved in it. And if you look at that concept, it feels like it's just a bunch of agents under the hood, right? Doing specific things. And so I think as the models get better, we've seen like DeepSeek come out the other day, R1, open source model, which is almost like at O1 level. So
Mhm.
I think as models get better, because models are the brains of AI agents. So
Mhm.
as models get better, the agents also get better over time. And I think the closer those two things keep running up, then we get to AGI, in my opinion.
I see. I see. So pretty much like the brain of the agent. So as
Yeah.
long as the brain advances, so we are getting there.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. Wow. This is actually very, very exciting. Thank you. Thank you, Tony, for all of the information. So let's get into like personal advice. Um, how do how do you see yourself in the next 5 years with AI? And if you have one piece of advice for our audience, what should it be?
Yeah, funny. I don't even know what tomorrow is gonna be like. But for me, I usually don't have these 5 year plans, like long-term plans like that. I think it's by design for me because if you look at my previous my life, really going back to I know we've talked with you extensively about this, but if I look back throughout my life, I don't think I've made 5 year plans, or if I have, they've definitely been grossly wrong, which is also great. That means I did something and I adjusted. I like to make like small bets and quick bets. So I have like 1 year plans, but those are like things that I can actually control and things that I can work towards. But I like to make like more like quarterly plans. I'm like, in the next 3 months, I want to have done this and this and this and this and this short steps. I think that's better because long term, if I do 5 year plans, then those are so huge. It's just like a big elephant, right? I want to eat small chunks. And if I look back even to last year and things that I was thinking that I was going to do, I blew past some of them just by setting those small goals. And you can break it down to like month by month, then it becomes really intense.
Yeah. So
Um,
like small win matter.
yes, small wins. There's
Yeah.
just steps, building steps. Yeah.
This is beautiful. Thank you, Tony. I think this is the most valuable episode that we have so far for our audience to learn more about like AI, how to get themselves out there, even like just the non-technical working with tools. I think yeah, you have a lot of like valuable advice for the student, new grad. Grateful to have you here with us today. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And hopefully this is helpful for somebody out there.
Yeah, definitely.